The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss and stepped onto Station 7 for the first time. The air smelled strange. It was clean, too clean, like nothing he had ever breathed on Earth. The walls curved upward into a massive dome of transparent metal, and beyond it he could see the black emptiness of space dotted with distant stars. He was 17 years old. He carried one bag. Inside were 3 changes of clothes, a photograph of his grandmother, and a small stone from the river behind his childhood home. Everything else he owned, he had left behind. The Galactic Combat Academy had trained warriors from 46 different species for over 3,000 cycles. The academy was famous across the known universe. Graduates became fleet commanders, planetary defenders, and elite soldiers. Every species in the Galactic Council sent their best young warriors to Station 7. No human had ever graduated. Everyone knew this. Humans had tried before. 12 had applied over the past century. All 12 had failed. Some quit. Some were injured too badly to continue. 2 had died during training exercises. The galaxy had reached a simple conclusion. Humans were too weak for real combat. Walked through the main corridor toward the registration area. Other cadets moved around him, and he felt very small. A group of warriors passed on his left. They were reptilian, covered in thick green scales, and each one stood nearly 3 meters tall. Their arms were as thick as his entire body. One of them looked down at him and made a sound that might have been laughter. A cadet skittered past on 6 legs, its body moving with terrifying speed. Its compound eyes reflected its image 100 times over. A pair floated in a water-filled transport sphere. Their long tentacles pressed against the glass as they watched the new arrivals with cold curiosity. Kept walking. He did not look down. He did not slow his steps. At the registration desk, a bored-looking official scanned his documents and blinked several times at the screen. "Human," the official said flatly. "You are aware of your species' history at this institution." "Yes." "You understand that the Academy accepts no responsibility for injury or death during training." "Yes." The official stared at him for a long moment, then shrugged and pressed a button. A small badge materialized on the desk surface. "Training Hall 7. Assessment begins in 1 hour. Try not to die on the first day. The paperwork is extensive." Took the badge and walked toward Training Hall 7. The hall was enormous. The ceiling rose 30 meters above the polished floor, and the walls were lined with weapons from dozens of worlds. Bladed weapons, energy weapons, projectile weapons, things could not even identify. Training dummies stood in rows along one side. Combat rings were marked on the floor in glowing lines. About 60 cadets had gathered in the center of the hall. Most of them were. The reptilian species dominated the academy, and they carried themselves with obvious pride. They were the strongest, the most naturally gifted warriors in the known galaxy. Everyone knew this. The knew it best of all. Found a spot near the back of the group and waited. The doors at the far end of the hall opened, and senior instructor entered. Even among them was impressive. He stood taller than the others, his scales darker, almost black. Scars crossed his chest and arms, evidence of 100 battles. His eyes were vertical slits of yellow that swept across the assembled cadets with cold evaluation. Behind him walked 3 assistant instructors, all nearly as large as himself. "I am senior instructor," he announced. His voice echoed through the hall. "For the next 4 cycles, I will determine if you are worthy of this academy. Most of you are not. Most of you will fail. Some of you will be injured. A few of you may die." He paused, letting the words settle. "This is acceptable. We do not train survivors here. We train warriors." His yellow eyes stopped on. The hall went quiet. Every cadet turned to look at the small human standing at the back of the group. Walked forward slowly. The crowd parted for him. He stopped directly in front of and looked down at him the way someone might look at an insect. A human said, "How interesting." Said nothing. He kept his eyes forward, looking at the instructor's chest rather than meeting his gaze. He knew that direct eye contact was considered a challenge among the. He was not ready for a challenge. Not yet. "Your species has failed at this academy 12 times, continued. 12 humans have walked through those doors. 12 humans have crawled back out, broken and defeated. Do you believe you are different from them?" "I do not know," said. His voice was steady. "I have not been tested yet." A ripple of amusement passed through the cadets. One of them laughed openly. Tilted his head. "Then let us test you." He turned and walked to the weapons wall. His clawed hand selected a training baton, a weighted metal shaft about a meter long. It was designed for warriors, heavy enough to shatter bones with a single strike. "This is a standard assessment," announced to the watching cadets. "On the first day, we determine each cadet's base reflexes, their instincts, their potential." He swung the baton once, cutting the air with a sharp whistle, or their lack of potential. He walked back to and stood before him. "The test is simple," said. "I will swing, you will react. There is no wrong answer, human. If you block, I will know your defensive instincts. If you dodge, I will know your speed. If you fail to react at all," he showed his teeth in what might have been a smile, "I will know that as well." Nodded, he shifted his weight slightly, settling his feet into a stable position. His hands hung loose at his sides. The watching cadets leaned forward. They expected entertainment. They expected to watch the small, soft human crumple under the instructor's first blow. It would be a good story to tell later. Drew back the baton, his muscles tensed, his eyes narrowed. He swung. The baton cut through the air towards head, moving faster than any human should have been able to track. It was a killing blow, the kind of strike that ended fights before they began. His hand came up. He caught the baton midair. His fingers wrapped around the metal shaft, and though his arm shook from the impact, though the force of the blow drove him back half a step, he did not fall. He did not crumple. He did not cry out. He held the baton in his grip, stopping it completely. The hall went absolutely silent. Stared at his own weapon, now trapped in the small human's hand. His vertical pupils expanded. In 3,000 cycles of training warriors, in thousands of first-day assessments, no cadet had ever caught his opening strike. Looked up at the instructor. His arm burned with pain. His palm was already bruising where the metal had struck, but he smiled. It was a small smile, almost polite, but there was something behind it, something that had survived ice ages and predators and plagues and wars. "Try me again," said. Pulled the baton free from his grip. He stared at the human for a long, silent moment. Something shifted in those yellow eyes. It might have been surprise. It might have been the first small seed of doubt. "Report to medical for assessment," said finally. His voice was flat, controlled. "Training begins tomorrow at dawn." He turned and walked away. Stood alone in the center of the hall as 60 cadets stared at him in silence. He did not speak. He did not celebrate. He simply walked toward the medical wing, holding his bruised hand against his chest. Behind him, the whispers began. The medical wing of Station 7 was cold and white and hummed with machines that did not recognize. He sat on an examination table while scanners moved around his body, sending beams of blue light across his skin. The machines beeped and clicked, recording data that appeared on screens he could not read. Doctor stood at the main console, watching the results with growing confusion. She was an Etherian, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Her body was tall and thin, almost fragile-looking, and her skin was so pale that could see the faint blue lines of her veins beneath it. The Etherians were not warriors. They were scientists, healers, scholars. They had given up physical combat thousands of years ago in favor of intellectual pursuits. "This is very strange," Doctor said. She tapped the screen several times as if hoping the data would change. It did not. Is something wrong with me? Asked. Wrong? She turned to look at him. Her eyes were large and silver without visible pupils. No, nothing is wrong. That is the problem. According to these scans, you should not have been able to catch that baton. The force behind instructor's swing was calculated at approximately 800 kilograms. Your skeletal structure, your muscle density, your body mass, none of it should have been enough. But I did catch it. Yes, you did. She turned back to the console and pulled up more data, and I am trying to understand how. Waited. His hand still ached from the impact. The medical machines had already applied some kind of healing gel to his palm, and the bruising was fatting, but he could still feel the ghost of that blow echoing through his bones. Doctor was quiet for several minutes, scrolling through screens of information. Finally, she spoke. Your species, she said slowly, is unlike anything I have studied before. I have examined warriors from 32 different species. I have documented their strengths, their limits, their breaking points. Every species has a breaking point, a moment when the body says no more and forces them to stop. She turned to face him fully. Humans do not seem to have this. Frowned, I don't understand. Doctor walked closer to the examination table. She called up a holographic display that showed the inside of a human body. Muscles, bones, organs, all rendered in glowing light. When a warrior fights, his muscles produce waste products, chemicals that build up and cause pain. When these chemicals reach a certain level, the body shuts down. It is a protection system. It prevents the warrior from damaging himself beyond repair. She gestured at the display. Your body produces the same chemicals, the same waste products, the same pain signals. So what's different? Your brain ignores them. Stared at her. Not completely, Doctor continued. You feel the pain, you feel the exhaustion, but your species has somehow evolved to treat these signals as suggestions, warnings that can be. Your ancestors, I believe, were persistent hunters. They chased prey across great distances, running for hours, for days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Is this correct? Thought about what he had learned in school back on Earth. Yes, that's how early humans hunted. We couldn't run faster than animals, so we just kept following them until they couldn't run anymore. Doctor nodded slowly. This explains much. Your species was not designed for single combat. You were not designed to win quickly. You were designed to endure, to outlast, to refuse to stop. She paused. Among the known species of this galaxy, this is extremely rare. She pulled up another display, this one showing a comparison chart. On one side was a warrior. On the other was a human. A warrior can lift 3 times your body weight. He can strike with enough force to crack stone. In a fight of pure strength, he will always defeat you. She pointed to the side of the chart. But a warrior can only maintain peak combat effectiveness for approximately 12 minutes. After that, his body begins to fail. His muscles lock. His reactions slow. His vision blurs. She pointed to the human side. You maintained elevated combat readiness for the entire duration of instructor's assessment. Your body was damaged. Your hand was injured. Your muscles were strained. And according to these readings, she tapped the screen. You could have continued fighting for another 45 minutes before experiencing significant degradation. Looked at the numbers. They did not seem remarkable to him. This was simply how his body worked. How every human body worked. Your muscles tear during intense activity, Doctor said. Small tears invisible to the eye. In most species, this would be catastrophic. The muscles would need weeks to heal, but your muscles, she shook her head. They rebuild themselves, stronger than before, denser, more efficient. Every time you push past your limits, your body adapts to make those limits higher. She was quiet for a moment. Your bones do the same thing. Small fractures, stress damage, the kind of injuries that would end a warrior's career. Your bones respond by becoming harder, more dense. I have seen the skeletal scans of your professional athletes. Some of them have bones nearly as strong as warriors, simply because they have broken and rebuilt so many times. Flexed his injured hand. The pain was already fatting. On my home planet, he said, there was a woman who ran for 24 hours without stopping, not because she had to, just to see if she could. Doctor stared at him. There are races where humans run for 100 miles, through deserts, through mountains. Some of them are old, 60, 70 years old, and they finish. This is not normal, Doctor said quietly. It's normal for us. She turned back to her console and began typing rapidly. I must document this. The Academy has records of human cadets, but nothing this detailed, nothing that explains. She stopped and looked at him again. What are humans truly? What made you this way? Thought about the question. He thought about Earth's history. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Predators with teeth and claws and venom. Diseases that killed millions. Wars that destroyed cities. Famines and droughts and disasters of every kind. And through all of it, humans had survived. Not because they were the strongest. Not because they were the fastest. But because they simply refused to die. We're stubborn, he said finally. That's all. We're just really, really stubborn. Doctor was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. It was a soft sound, musical, but there was something nervous beneath it. I think, she said, that stubborn is a very small word for what your species is. She saved her data and turned off the displays. You are cleared for training. Your hand will be fully healed by morning. I would advise you to rest. Stood and walked toward the door. Before he reached it, Doctor spoke again. Cadet. He turned. The other species at this academy. They have been watching your kind fail for a century. They believe humans are weak. They believe you are fragile. They believe you will break. Her silver eyes met his. I do not think they understand what they are looking at. What do you mean? Doctor smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just realized something frightening. I mean that I have spent my career studying the galaxy's greatest warriors. I know what strength looks like. I know what power looks like. She paused. I have never seen anything as terrifying as an organism that refuses to accept its own limits, an organism that breaks itself and grows stronger, an organism that treats pain as information rather than a command. She turned back to her console. Sleep well, cadet. I suspect you will need it. Walked out of the medical wing and into the corridor. The station was quieter now. Most cadets had returned to their quarters, but he could feel eyes on him, watching from doorways, peering around corners. Word had spread. The human had caught the stick. And tomorrow, training would begin. 3 months passed, trained every day. He woke before dawn and went asleep long after dark. He ran until his legs burned. He fought until his knuckles bled. He studied combat techniques from 40 different species until his eyes ached from reading. He did not complain. He did not slow down. He did not stop. The other cadets watched him with confusion at first, then curiosity, then something that might have been respect. The human was not the strongest. He was not the fastest, but he was always there. Every morning, every session, every exercise. While other cadets took rest days, while they nursed injuries and recovered their strength, the human kept moving. Some of the warriors began to find this irritating. Instructor found it unacceptable. The incident with the training baton had embarrassed him. No cadet had ever caught his assessment strike. The fact that a human, the smallest and weakest species to ever attend the academy, had accomplished this was an insult that could not forget. He pushed harder than any other cadet. He assigned him the heaviest weights, the longest runs, the most difficult opponents. He criticized every technique, every movement, every breath. He was waiting for to fail, to break, to prove that humans were as weak as everyone believed. Did not break. After 3 months, made a decision. The announcement came during morning assembly. All cadets gathered in Training Hall 7, standing in neat rows while the instructor stood before them. Cadet said, "Step forward." Walked out of the formation and stood before the senior instructor. He kept his posture straight and his eyes forward. His body was covered in small bruises from the previous day's training, but he showed no sign of pain. "You have completed 3 months of basic training," said. "Your performance has been adequate." The words seemed to taste bad in his mouth. "However, there are concerns about your suitability for this academy." Said nothing, he waited. "The council has reviewed your progress," continued. "We have decided that a more thorough assessment is necessary. You will face the gauntlet." A murmur ran through the assembled cadets. Several of them exchanged surprised glances. Did not react. He had heard of the gauntlet. Everyone had heard of the gauntlet. It was a series of 12 combat trials designed for elite cadets in their final year. The trials were brutal. The opponents were selected specifically to exploit each cadet's weaknesses. Many final-year cadets failed the gauntlet. Some were injured so badly they could never fight again. No first-year cadet had ever attempted it. The rules did not allow it. "Sir," one of the assistant instructors said quietly, "the gauntlet is restricted to final-year cadets. The human has only been here for 3 months." Turned his yellow eyes toward the assistant. "The council has made an exception. The human claims to be worthy of this academy. The gauntlet will prove whether this is true." He looked back at, "You will face all 12 trials. If you pass, you will be permitted to continue your training. If you fail," he showed his teeth, "you will leave this station and never return." Felt the weight of 60 pairs of eyes on him. He felt the satisfaction radiating from. The instructor expected him to refuse, to beg for more time, to admit that he was not ready. "When do I begin?" asked. Satisfaction flickered just for a moment. 3 days. Prepare yourself, human. The gauntlet has broken warriors far stronger than you." He turned and walked away. The assembly was dismissed. Returned to his quarters. He sat on his small bed and stared at the wall. His mind was calm. His body was tired but functional. He had 3 days to prepare for 12 trials that were designed to destroy him. He needed help. That evening, he found in the station's tactical center. She was the only other human on Station 7, though she was not a cadet. She worked as a tactical analyst, studying combat patterns and strategies for the Academy's research division. She was 20 years old, 3 years older than, and she had been on the station for 2 years. She was not surprised to see him. "I heard about the gauntlet," she said. Her workspace was covered in holographic displays showing combat footage from dozens of species. "They're trying to kill you." "Probably," agreed. He sat down across from her. "The gauntlet is designed to exploit weaknesses. Each trial is customized based on the cadet's physiology and fighting style. For a warrior, they might include opponents who are faster, who can avoid their strength. They might include opponents who can survive their initial attacks and press them in close combat." She pulled up a new display. "For a human, they'll choose opponents who are stronger, faster, more durable, everything you're not." "So how do I win?" Smiled. It was not a comforting smile. It was the smile of someone who had been thinking about this problem for a very long time. "You don't fight like them," she said. "That's the mistake every human cadet has made. They train with they learn techniques. They try to be warriors in human bodies." She shook her head. "It doesn't work. We're not built for that kind of combat." "Then what are we built for?" Leaned forward. Her eyes were bright with intensity. "Do you know why humans became the dominant species on Earth? We weren't the strongest animals. We weren't the fastest. We didn't have claws or fangs or armor. We were small and soft and slow. We were smart," said. "That's part of it, but lots of animals are smart. Ravens are smart. Dolphins are smart. Elephants are smart." She pulled up an image of ancient Earth, showing early humans chasing a herd of animals across a grassland. "We won because we never stopped. We chased prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. We fought predators until they gave up and looked for easier targets. We survived ice ages and famines and plagues because we just kept going when everything else died. Watched the image of his ancestors, running across the ancient world with simple weapons in their hands. Humans are endurance hunters, continued. We don't win fights by being stronger. We win by lasting longer, by refusing to stop, by making our enemies believe they've already won and then hitting them when they're tired. She closed the display. The aliens here don't understand this. They think strength wins battles. They think speed wins battles. They don't know about the kind of warfare that lasts for hours, for days, for years. So I let them exhaust themselves, said slowly. You let them think they're winning. You survive their best attacks. You make them spend their energy trying to finish you. And when they start to slow down, when their bodies start to fail. She met his eyes. That's when you break them. Thought about this. He thought about every fight he had been in since arriving at the academy. He had tried to match the warriors blow for blow. He had tried to be as strong and as fast as they were, and he had lost every time. Maybe he had been fighting the wrong way. Will you help me? He asked. Nodded. I've been waiting for a human cadet who might actually listen, who might actually understand what we are. She stood up and walked to a wall covered in combat data. We have 3 days. That's not enough time to make you stronger. It's not enough time to make you faster, but it might be enough time to teach you how to win. For the next 3 days, they worked together, showed him footage of every gauntlet trial from the past 50 years. She analyzed the fighting styles of every species he might face. She taught him about anatomy, about weak points, about the limits that every alien body had. And she taught him the most important lesson of all. Pain is information, she told him on the final night. It's your body telling you that something is wrong, but it's not a command. It's not an order. You can feel it and you can choose to keep going anyway. No other species in this galaxy can do that the way we can. Nodded, he understood. Tomorrow, the gauntlet would begin. Billions of viewers across 17 star systems would watch. They would expect to see a human fail, just like all the others. Intended to disappoint them. The arena was massive. It stretched across the entire eastern section of Station 7, a circular space nearly half a kilometer wide. The floor could be transformed into any environment: desert, jungle, water, ice. Cameras floated at every angle, broadcasting to screens across 17 star systems. Billions of viewers had tuned in to watch. They had come to see a human fail. Stood at the entrance to the arena wearing nothing but standard training clothes. No armor, no weapons. He would receive whatever equipment each trial required, but nothing else. His hands were empty. His body was tense but controlled. The announcer's voice echoed through the station. The gauntlet begins. Trial 1, speed assessment. Opponent, warrior, 3rd rank. The doors on the opposite side of the arena opened, and they emerged. It was terrifying. 6 legs carried a body covered in hard black shell. 4 arms ended in claws that could cut through metal. Compound eyes reflected the arena lights like 1,000 tiny mirrors. They were the fastest species in the galaxy. Their reflexes operated at nearly twice the speed of any mammalian brain. They did not wait. It launched itself across the arena floor, covering 30 meters in less than 2 seconds. Its claws struck its chest, his face, his throat. Could not block. He could not dodge fast enough. The claws found him again and again. In the first 30 seconds, he was hit 14 times. Blood ran from cuts on his arms, his shoulders, his face. The crowd watching on screens across the galaxy cheered. This was what they expected. This was a human being destroyed. But did not fall. He took the hits. He let the claws cut him. He focused on surviving each strike rather than preventing it, tucking his chin, protecting his throat and eyes, turning his body to take the blows on muscle rather than bone. 1 minute passed. There was still striking, still moving at incredible speed, was still bleeding, still taking damage. 2 minutes passed. Thus movements began to change. Its strikes came a fraction slower. Its breathing grew heavier. They were fast, but they were not built for sustained combat. Their metabolism burned energy at an incredible rate. A warrior could devastate any opponent in the first 60 seconds of a fight. After 3 minutes, they began to slow. After 5 minutes, they were vulnerable. Had studied this, had shown him the data. By minute 3, the compound eyes were flickering with confusion. No opponent had ever survived this long. No opponent had ever remained standing after so many strikes. By minute 5, began to fight back. His movements were slow compared to but there was no longer fast enough to avoid them. Caught one of its arms on a downward strike. His fingers found the joint between shell segments. He twisted. The arm dislocated with a wet crack. The screamed and stumbled back, pressed forward, ignoring the blood running down his own face, ignoring the pain from dozens of cuts. He struck at the damaged arm again, then kicked at the front legs. The creature collapsed, pinned it to the ground. The struggled, but its energy was gone. Its speed was gone. Yield said. The tapped the ground twice. The announcer's voice returned, sounding surprised. Trial 1 complete, human victory. The crowd was silent. Trial 4 was underwater. The arena floor transformed into a massive pool, 50 meters deep. Its opponent was an aquatic species with tentacles and gills and eyes that could see in absolute darkness. They had lived in water for millions of years. They were perfect underwater predators. Had never fought underwater in his life. They attacked immediately, wrapping tentacles around his legs and dragging him down. The water was cold and dark and pressed against his chest. His lungs began to burn after 30 seconds. After 1 minute, his vision started to blur. They held him deep, waiting for him to drown. 2 minutes passed. His body screamed for air. Every instinct told him to panic, to thrash, to waste the last of his oxygen in desperate struggle. He did not panic. Had told him about this. Humans could hold their breath for remarkable lengths of time if they remained calm. The world record was over 24 minutes. Most humans could manage 2 or 3 minutes with training. In an emergency, with proper technique, 4 minutes was possible. Went still. He let his body relax completely. He slowed his heart rate as much as he could. He focused on one thing, surviving the next second, and the next, and the next. 3 minutes passed. This grip loosened slightly. It was confused. No air-breathing species had ever lasted this long. 3.5 minutes. His vision was almost completely black. His chest felt like it was being crushed, but he could feel this confusion turning to concern. At 4 minutes, they made a mistake. It brought closer to the surface, trying to see if he was already dead. His hand shot out and grabbed one of its tentacles. He pulled himself up the creature's body, burst through the surface, gasped one desperate breath, and then drove his elbow into the soft tissue behind his eyes. The creature released him, kicked toward the edge of the pool, reached the shallow water, and turned to face his opponent. They did not follow. It floated at the surface, stunned by the blow to its head. Yield called out. The tentacles twitched twice. Surrender. Trial 9 was the worst yet. 3 warriors entered the arena together. They were young, strong, and fresh. One of them was instructor's personal student, the most promising cadet in the academy. Was already damaged. 8 trials had left him bruised, cut, and exhausted. His left eye was swollen nearly shut from a blow in Trial 7. His ribs ached from Trial 8. The 3 surrounded him. They did not attack immediately. They were patient. They knew he was weakened. Surrender, human said. You have fought well. No one expected you to survive this long, but you cannot defeat 3 of us, not in your condition. Looked at the 3 warriors. Each one was twice his size. Each one was fresh and undamaged. They were right. In open combat he could not win. So he would not fight in open combat. He turned and ran. They laughed and chased him. They were faster than him, stronger than him. They would catch him in seconds. But was not running away. He was running toward the narrow maintenance corridor at the edge of the arena. It was barely 2 meters wide, designed for service robots, not for combat. He squeezed through the entrance. They followed, but the corridor was too small for them to fight effectively. They could only come at him one at a time. The first charged, dropped low and swept its legs. In the narrow space it could not recover its balance. It fell hard against the wall, grabbed its head and slammed it into the metal floor. They went limp. The second was more careful. It advanced slowly, claws extended, retreated, drawing it deeper into the corridor. When it lunged, he drove his knee into the joint of its leg. They roared in pain, hit it again and again, targeting the same spot until the leg buckled. They fell to one knee, wrapped his arm around its throat and squeezed. There was 3 times his weight, but in this position, weight meant nothing. He held the choke until the creature stopped struggling. Stood at the corridor entrance, watching. His yellow eyes were wide. "You use the environment," he said slowly. "You make our strength useless." "I use everything," replied. His voice was hoarse. His body was failing, but he was still standing. Considered for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed his head. "I yield," he said. "You have earned this victory." Trial 12. Could barely stand. His left arm hung useless at his side, dislocated in Trial 11. Blood caked the left side of his face from a gash above his eye. Every breath sent pain shooting through his broken ribs. The arena doors opened. An instructor stepped through. He was fresh, undamaged, the most experienced warrior on the station. He had been watching every trial, studying every weakness had shown. "You have surprised me," Human said. He walked slowly toward the center of the arena. 11 trials. No first-year cadet has ever completed 11 trials. You should be proud. Said nothing. He focused on staying upright. "But this ends here," continued. "You are broken, damaged. You can barely stand. Yield now and I will grant you an honorable withdrawal. You can leave this station knowing you fought well." Looked at the instructor. He thought about everything he had endured. The training, the pain, the doubt. He thought about his grandmother back on Earth who had survived 2 cancers and still woke up every morning to tend her garden. He thought about what it meant to be human. "I didn't come here to prove a point," said. His voice was weak but steady. "I didn't come here to fight well. I came here to graduate." His eyes narrowed. "Then you will die trying." The instructor attacked. His first strike shattered 2 more of his ribs. His second opened a new gash across shoulder. Fell, he tasted blood. His vision flickered. He got back up. Struck again, went down again. He got back up. The galaxy watched. Billions of viewers saw a small human, broken and bleeding, rise from the arena floor again and again. They saw him take blows that would have killed most species. They saw him fall and rise and fall and rise. And slowly, they began to understand what they were watching. They were watching something that would not stop. The fight lasted 41 minutes. In the first 10 minutes, dominated completely. He was faster, stronger, more skilled. His claws opened wounds across body. His fists broke bones. His tail swept legs out from under him again and again. But every time fell, he stood back up. The crowd had stopped cheering. The billions of viewers across 17 star systems watched in confused silence. This was not combat as they understood it. This was not a battle between warriors. This was something else entirely. By minute 15 was breathing harder. His strikes came a fraction slower. Warriors were built for explosive power, for short, brutal fights that ended quickly. Their bodies were not designed for sustained combat. Their muscles generated incredible force, but they also generated incredible waste. Lactic acid built up. energy reserves depleted. Had never fought for 15 minutes before. He had never needed to. Saw the change. His left eye was completely swollen shut now, but his right eye was still working. He watched movements, tracking the subtle signs of fatigue, the slightly slower footwork, the fractionally wider swings, the growing gaps in defense. He waited. In minute 18, landed his first real blow. It was not powerful, it was not impressive. His broken hand crashed against knee joint, barely enough force to bruise a human, but joints were vulnerable. The knee buckled for just a moment. Recovered immediately, but something had changed. For the first time, there was doubt in those yellow eyes. "You should be unconscious," said. His voice was rough with exertion. "You should be dead. Your body has taken enough damage to kill 3 warriors." Did not waste breath on a response. He just kept moving, circling, waiting. In minute 23, he broke 3 of his claws. The instructor had thrown a punch, putting too much weight behind it, overcommitting in his fatigue, caught the hand and twisted. The claws snapped like dry branches. Roared in pain and rage. He attacked with renewed fury, driving back across the arena. More wounds opened. More blood spilled. Fell 4 more times in the next 5 minutes. He got up every time. By minute 30, his movements were significantly slower. His attacks had lost their precision. He was no longer fighting to win. He was fighting to end this, to make the human stop standing up, to prove that he could still break this impossible creature. Watched and waited and bled and survived. In minute 35, Doctor appeared at the edge of the arena. Her face was pale with concern. She had medical equipment ready. She had been tracking vital signs throughout the fight. By every medical standard she knew, he should have lost consciousness 20 minutes ago. His body was failing in ways that should have been impossible to ignore. But he was still standing. In minute 38, his leg gave out. The knee that had struck earlier finally failed under the accumulated stress. The instructor stumbled, caught himself on one hand, tried to rise. For the first time in the fight, moved forward. He was not fast. He could not be fast anymore. His body was operating on pure will, on the stubborn refusal to acknowledge its own limits. But he moved forward, step by step, toward his opponent. Swung at him, took the blow. It knocked him sideways, opened another cut on his already damaged face. He kept moving forward. Another swing, another hit, another step forward. Tried to retreat, but his damaged leg would not cooperate. He fell back against the arena wall, trapped. Reached him. In minute 39, drove his knee into the back of his damaged leg. The joint collapsed completely. The instructor fell forward onto his hands and knees. Dropped with him. His arm, the one that still worked, wrapped around his throat. Not to kill, not to crush, just to hold. "Yield," whispered. His voice was barely audible. Blood dripped from his face onto his scales. Struggled. He was still stronger than even now, even exhausted and damaged. He tried to throw the human off. He tried to break the grip. He tried to reach back with his clawed hands. Held on. 40 minutes. Struggles grew weaker. His oxygen was running out. His body was failing. He had nothing left. 41 minutes. The senior instructor of the Galactic Combat Academy, the most experienced warrior on Station 7, tapped the arena floor twice. Surrender. The arena was silent. No cheering, no applause, just absolute, stunned silence across 17 star systems. Released his grip and collapsed onto the arena floor. He could not move. He could barely breathe. His body had finally reached its absolute limit. But he had won. Doctor rushed onto the arena floor with her medical team. They surrounded, scanning, treating, stabilizing. He heard her voice as if from a great distance. "He should be dead," she was saying. "By every metric I know, he should be dead. His body," she trailed off. His body simply refused to stop. Closed his eyes. He thought he might sleep for a very long time. He woke up 3 days later in the medical wing, was sitting beside his bed, reading something on a tablet. "Welcome back," she said. "You've been unconscious for 72 hours. Doctor says your body basically shut down to repair itself. Something about humans having emergency recovery modes that no one knew about." Tried to speak. His throat was dry, handed him water. "What happened?" he managed. "You graduated," said simply. "First human to complete the gauntlet. First human to defeat a senior instructor. First human to graduate from the Galactic Combat Academy." She smiled. "Also, you broke about 40 Academy records, including the record for most damage sustained in a single combat trial." Absorbed this information slowly, and "He's recovering, he'll be fine." Smile faded slightly. "He asked to see you actually, when you're ready." A week later, walked into his office. The instructor was standing by the window looking out at the stars. His knee was still bandaged. His broken claws had not yet. "You wanted to see me," said. Turned, his yellow eyes studied for a long moment. "I have trained warriors for 40 years, he said finally. "I have seen strength, I have seen speed, I have seen skill and technique and natural talent." He paused. "I have never seen what you showed in that arena." Waited. "I was wrong about humans," continued. "I thought you were weak, fragile, inferior." He moved closer, limping slightly on his damaged leg. "I understand now that I was measuring the wrong things." "What do you mean?" Was quiet for a moment. "To have a word. We use it for warriors who cannot be defeated through normal means. Warriors who must be killed completely because anything less is not enough." His voice dropped. "We call them nightmare enemies. Enemies that do not stop, that do not rest, that keep coming no matter what you do to them." He met's eyes. "You are a nightmare enemy. All humans are. We simply did not recognize it until now." Thought about this. He thought about Earth's history, the endless wars, the impossible survivals, the stubborn refusal to die. "Will there be more human cadets?" he asked. "Yes," said. "The Academy Council has approved a new program. Doctor is developing training protocols specifically designed for human physiology." He paused. "I will be teaching some of the courses, with your assistance if you agree." Nodded slowly. 5 years later, the Academy had graduated 31 humans. The training programs had been completely revised. New courses had been added to the curriculum. Endurance psychology, adaptive combat theory, the persistence doctrine. Doctor published her research on human physiology. The paper was read by military academies across the galaxy. Its title became famous, "The Species That Refuses to Die." Was promoted to senior tactical advisor. She trained the next generation of human cadets, teaching them what she had taught. You don't have to be the strongest. You don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be the last one standing. And he returned to Earth once briefly. He visited his grandmother in her garden. She was older now, moving slowly among her tomato plants, but her eyes were still sharp. "I heard you did something impressive," she said, not looking up from her work. "I just didn't quit." She smiled. It was the same stubborn smile he had inherited, the same smile that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, the smile of a species that simply refused to accept defeat. "Good," she said, "that's what we do." Knelt beside her and began pulling weeds. The sun was warm. The sky was blue. Somewhere far above them, on a station orbiting a distant star, a new generation of humans was learning to fight. Not to be the strongest. Not to be the fastest. Just to never, ever stop. That was the human way. That was what made them terrifying. That was what made them impossible to defeat. The galaxy was finally beginning to understand. And the galaxy was afraid.